Alrighty.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. For those that haven't met me before, my name is Derek Deckard. I'm the head of support here at FileWave. Been here for quite some time. So if you've been a customer for a while, I'm sure you've spoken to me at some point or seen me when we used to do the in-person conferences. Hopefully we can get back to those one of these days. But for now, I have some operational updates to go over with you. It's just kind of some things that are coming up here on the horizon and that we're doing in the background, but hopefully some good changes. So the first one, those of you that those of you that have your server on Linux probably are aware that CentOS is in maintenance mode currently and will be officially end of life summer of next year. So we've been looking at some alternatives, and we've actually decided that we're going to go with Alma Linux as the replacement. As I did mention, some of the customers do host with us, right? So we have their system in our cloud infrastructure, and we maintain those servers, and we upgrade those servers and whatnot. So those servers you guys don't have to worry about. Obviously, we'll do all of that on the background. And then... sorry, I'm trying not to just read the bullet points for you guys. But we're working on a migration path for those of you that do have these systems on-prem, right? So as far as I understand how it's going to work is we'll be able to just run some scripts that will upgrade your server in place from CentOS to Alma Linux. But first we got to get some things in place with FileWave itself, right? So one of those first steps is this FileWave 15. Has some things, and then there will be another release that will actually run on Alma Linux, and then we'll start sharing the process, right? And then we'll obviously reach out to let you guys know when that's available. We'll have KBs, be able to answer all these questions, help you guys through the process and all that. So we're not going to throw it at you and expect you to deal with it. We'll help you through it since, we're the ones that have to make this change. If during this time frame you guys start to decide that, hey, you don't want to manage your server anymore, like as I mentioned, we do host servers for customers, please reach out to customer experience. They can give you some information about us hosting your server for you if you'd prefer to go down that road. And if you forget who I just mentioned, you can always reach out to support, and we'll redirect you guys. And then the last point, right? If you're running a macOS server, nothing's changing on that end, right? We always keep up with the new OS as those get released. So here, like Tony was mentioning in the fall, we're going to have to do all the Apple updates, right? They'll release a new OS that will have to make sure that the server runs on it as well. Any questions real quick on the Alma Linux migration?
There was a question about wondering when the host change would be happening. So if we're talking about hosted, then we've actually sort of had about 20 something customers on what we call Cloud V2 for a couple of years now. But more recently with this more active move, we just moved 6 folks over to make sure that we're good with everything, and with our processes, because our intent is to move over the next month or so, move everything that is currently in AWS as like a standalone virtual server. So if people don't know, our hosted is kind of your computer running in Amazon's cloud. But what we're moving to is a more modern, Docker, Kubernetes thing that move should happen in the next 1 to 2 months. Our hope would be in the next 1 month you would be done, but things can never. Sometimes they slip.
I had forgotten to mention that those of you that are currently hosted with us, the majority of our customers are on what Josh said is Cloud V1, right? We have a couple hundred customers running on that system, and we're migrating those customers to the new system. It's happening currently. It'll be done before we make this move to Alma Linux.
And the other thing is Cloud V2 does not depend on CentOS versus Alma Linux. It kind of throws that worry out the window. You won't have to think about it. We won't have to think about it. It'll all be in that what we're calling Cloud V2. The only people that will have to think about CentOS versus Alma Linux are people with on-prem systems. And you can also still run on Mac OS, your server. And for those on-premise, you could move to our Cloud V2, which again would eliminate any dealings with Alma Linux for you. And if you want to stay on-prem, there will be a script. There already is a script that exists. It's just you couldn't really run it because it would put you on a beta of version 15, and that wouldn't be a good situation. So we have to release 15, like Derek said, and then we'll be able to publish a script that you could take your server over to. And we'll publish all sorts of documentation. It's a pretty simple process.
Let me answer a couple of questions that were in there.
Yeah.
Josh, there was a question about we're going to move the OVAs over to Alma Linux. That's one of the things that, so generally our including this slide here wasn't to make everybody panic. It was just to let everybody know that these are things that are going to be coming up over this next year. So what we'll be doing is, yes, at some point we're going to start publishing our OVAs as being Alma Linux so that we won't continue to, create basically technical debt by having new folks come on. And it's also a great way of us being able to test that we don't have any issues, right? If we stand up somebody brand new on Alma Linux with FileWave that never, ever ran on CentOS, that's great. It's a great test environment and it doesn't put anything at risk. So eventually we'll publish the OVAs to be Alma Linux directly. But for those who already have an existing environment, the upgrade path is more an upgrade of CentOS and then an upgrade from CentOS to Alma Linux in kind of in a scripted fashion. But all the details and documentation surrounding that will need to be done is not complete yet. So we're working on that, and we'll be publishing that and sharing that. And so this is mostly a heads up that, hey, between now and and next summer that we'll, have that set up for you and that you'll want to think about that. But there was a great question there about pros and cons of hosted versus on-prem. As Derek mentioned, if you don't want to be bothered really with any of this, that's one of the reasons that we offer the hosted solution. And so what are the pros of that? The pros of being hosted basically means you don't have to ever go to the command line on the server again. You don't have to be there. We do all of that stuff for you. So when it comes to version upgrades, we handle the FileWave server upgrades. Of course, you're still updating your own boosters and clients, but we'll handle the server upgrades for you, and that includes backups. And I mentioned backups because that's the thing that a lot of times gets forgotten about until it's way too late, and you need access to that. So all of this is in our cloud and done automatically, so we have you covered on that. Right.
Okay. There was actually a good thing that Charles brought up in the chat about running containers on-prem. Something we should probably chat about internally with the cloud team is, some software vendors do publish, Docker containers to run yourself. Maybe we should think about that. I don't think we have that idea written down yet. So, Charles, that'll be something that I'll chat with our cloud team about. There was a thing about Ubuntu that I commented in chat about that Alma was the easier choice to go to, partially because it was CentOS 8 binary compatible. That was one thing that kind of had it be that and Rocky Linux Lever binary compatible with CentOS 8. So it made it sort of an easy pro. Okay. So then I think that topic's good. Okay. So then on to the next.
A new ticketing system. So for those of you that know, we currently use Jira as the supports ticketing system. We are going to be moving to HubSpot, which is our CRM. So we're hopeful, like it says, what do you need to do as a customer? The hope is nothing. One of the things that I didn't think about that Tony pointed out to me is if you have set a bookmark for, supports web portal, that will possibly change, right? It's still going to be help.filewave.com. That's probably the easiest way to get to us, right? You just hop on a browser and go to help.filewave.com, but that does redirect to Jira's specific customer portal. So if you've bookmarked that page, then that will obviously change. But if you can just update that to help.filewave.com, that'll be good. We are migrating all your previous tickets, so we'll still have access to all of that history. Everything will be in there. And then the last part is, when is it happening? It's all dependent on these other projects, right? So like Josh mentioned, we're currently in the process of migrating the Cloud V1 to Cloud V2. Once that gets done, then we will start this process as well. We'll be sending out information to you guys about, when it's going to happen. More than likely, it'll be over a weekend that we'll do the final migration of everything and do our checks and whatnot. And then you'll come in on a Monday morning, and all the redirects will just be going to the new system. And again, there really shouldn't be anything for you guys to do. Maybe make note beforehand of just like how many open tickets you have. Obviously, we'll keep both systems in place for a bit just in case something does go wrong. But in theory, it should be good to go. One of the nice things that I like about the new system is we are going to, those of you that use the web portal itself, we're going to add a little bit more requirements for creating tickets, just because it gives support that extra information up front, so we can stop with a little bit of the back and forth, right? Because I know some of the questions we end up asking right out of the gate a lot of times is, what version are you running? What OS is this? Those sort of things. So we're going to try and have those answered from the get-go. You guys can always still use the email option too, right? It's also help@filewave.com. Some of you probably have been here long enough that you also have support@filewave.com. That one also works. It's just a redirect. So if you want to make sure you're using the main ones, it is, and the easiest ones to remember is just help.filewave.com and help@filewave.com. Does anybody have any questions on that?
Not a question, but I do have a comment.
Okay.
Right. You didn't mention the phone support, but I did want to just mention phone support. There's kind of a general feel a lot of times that if I pick up the phone, it's the best way to go, but likely it's not. So we don't staff at a level to have somebody sitting there available to pick up the phone immediately when you call. So what happens with those calls is, of course, they're being recorded, and then somebody picks up and creates a ticket from it. But it's actually much easier to have the detail in that original ticket. So as Derek mentioned, the voicemails as well, they create a lot of back and forth about then details. So we have to then follow up. I think it's more efficient, and I think it's showing in our metrics that it's more efficient when a ticket comes in through the web form, because we get better data there. So, and no, Israel, it does not go to my phone number. But yeah, I mean, we love our support team, and I think we give great support, especially compared to so many organizations. It's really the thing that we love to do. But I think phone slows you down, which is not our goal. So the web form is best, and then we can share that across teams better too. So. And that part's not changing at all, if I remember correct. Yeah. Phone still works just as it was before.
Correct. It's mostly in the US has a phone number and EU has a phone number. But as Tony mentioned, the teams try to answer the phones, but it's just like anything else, right? If they're working with a current customer, they're not going to put that customer on hold or something to answer the phone and then get tied up on something else, because, we try to give everybody the same amount of attention, especially when you're working with them. So that's why we kind of prefer the ticketing system, because we do just, it just builds up a queue, probably like most of you have in your own organizations, and we just hit all the tickets that we can and just try and keep everything moving.
Well, the other nice thing about a ticket coming in versus the phone is, Shayna may answer the phone, but James might be the best at, that particular kind of problem. So going into the queue, everybody that's, the best at a thing might pick the tickets that they know that they could solve quicker. And so it lets you get to more of the subject matter expert, because, it's hard to be a master of everything. So like within PS, amongst like Emma and Sean and Andrew and Ramel will, have somebody that's really good at a particular thing and shift things around within PS. And same as support. Okay. So then I think the ticket system is good, and I think you guys will like it. I've seen the migration of tickets. It brings everything over from the old tickets. It was really nice. So then
I will just mention as well on that, Josh, that the move also makes it much easier for us to kind of see tickets related to an organization in a way that Jira didn't. Right. So Jira, we could create kind of a false environment where it looked like, okay, where are all the tickets coming from a particular organization, but doing this within our CRM actually makes that reporting much easier as well. So I think we'll actually see. I actually think our support team is probably the best part. Well, I would say it's the best part of FileWave. No offense to any of the other teams, but I love our support group and what they do for our customers. But I think this will even move it a notch forward.
Yeah, I guess one. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say we're the fun group.
And I steal everybody from your group.
That's true.
So one thing that people may not know is that professional services used to use Jira just like support uses Jira. When I joined 2 years ago, we were using Jira, and we moved over to HubSpot when, as a company, we moved to HubSpot for our CRM. One of the reasons I did that was so that customer experience, who works with a lot of you folks, they would have an easier way to see about custom projects and things. And that probably started us down the road of thinking about where support should be as well. And so now with this move, customer experience, support, and professional services are all in one sort of ticket management system, so we can all see each other's stuff, and we'll be able to communicate better. And that works out for you guys. So, okay, so on to the pro services stuff. So everybody should know me, hopefully. Josh Levitsky. I run professional services and training. And I want to talk about some things. Some of these slides will be similar to past Alliance meetings. I've kind of found that I have a collection of topics that I want to make sure that I update you guys on. So the slides will generally be the same actually moving forward, just the details will change. So we're going to talk about different things like training, for instance. So we started to think about new administrators. We had a lot of cases of there was an administrator there who used FileWave for years and years. They left, a new person came in, and we always had this informal process where we would speak with somebody about our paid offerings and our free offerings for training a new administrator. But we didn't really have standard sort of offerings. Standard offerings help for customer experience to just explain what we could do without necessarily looping me into a call. But we're global, and we use a lot of partners. So it also lets our partners sell these things to somebody. It lets more people be aware they exist, because you could have access to a library of things we have. Over the past 2 years, I run into a lot of people that weren't quite sure that we had professional services and training offerings. And then they're happy to find out we do. And so, we're just going to have some more definition rather than just selling you 4 hours of training. There'll be some more definition about what that is. As well, we've also done server migrations. The whole time I've been here, we've done migrations from on-prem to SaaS, on-prem to on-prem. And we would do it by selling you a certain number of hours. And we didn't really have it documented about what was going to happen. So you'd have to ask, and we'd have to tell you. But now there's a PDF that says what to expect in a migration project. We're going to do more of that, documenting what we offer, so that you know what we have and what you could expect. And this little guy is... in the image is, the new administrator that's overwhelmed. That's what I was going for there. As far as communities go, so we launched Discord, and actually even before that, we launched the Alliance Forum. So in September last year, we launched the Web Forum. Then in December, we launched the Discord chat. And the last Alliance meeting, there was an average about 60 people on at any given time. And now it's more like 80. So I know it's trending higher. Last quarter, we, I think, had maybe 300 members. Now we're at 477 when I looked yesterday. So there are certainly people joining there. Over on the Alliance forum, I don't have the numbers here, but there is some activity there as well. We're watching both. From my team, we're watching both forums. We're trying to answer things if someone else doesn't jump in and answer it, or if it's an answer that only a FileWave person could give. We're trying to support both environments. And the question comes up, why have two? For some folks, Discord is a lot. A chat environment is real time, and the pace is a little faster versus Alliance forums. A web-based forum, it does a specific thing. It also is indexed by Google. So sometimes when you search through Google, you're going to see Alliance forum results. It's good for us to have that. So I'd say if you're just trying to ask a quick question and you're not trying to be so heavily involved, the Alliance forum can be good. But Discord, if FileWave is at the center of your client, your endpoint management, and it's part of your everyday, Discord is a great thing to join. And that's why we're hosting those training sessions there. But we're aware that not everyone's in Discord, which is why they're published to YouTube as well. They're published there so that you can watch it anytime, because we know with time zones, we're global. 10 a.m. new time is not great if you're in the Philippines, because it's 10 p.m. there. So. Okay, so just look for those to get, more and more activity, more people. Join if you haven't, whichever one you'd prefer. And I mentioned those trainings. We call them Discord chats. Since the last Alliance meeting, we've held quite a few in the past 3 months. So, and these are all on YouTube. You can get to that with one of these QR codes with the Connect on Social that lists our YouTube channel. But we've done best practices specifically for boosters. There was a getting started with Grafana, and Emma ran that Grafana session. We talked about it, and in a couple of months, we're going to do another one, kind of a repeat of that, because Grafana will have some updates, and as well, on that earlier session, we found that our lab server was a little underpowered, so there were, some hiccups. But we're going to be doing that again. Actually, our Grafana server was just moved over to Cloud V2, and the performance is quite a bit better. So we're going to have that session again, just to have a better experience. Pro services, open office hours. Although it's listed with all these things, it actually is sort of like a standalone thing. It's a really great thing. It's once a month right now, and it falls into, I forget exactly the day. I think it's like the third Tuesday or something. I'll show it to you in Discord when we go to do the AMA. But we have this once a month session where you can ask anything you want. Some people join regularly to kind of hang out and chit chat, and that's cool. And I do want to expand it to have times that are good for Europe and times that are good for Asia Pacific as well. I haven't taken that step to do that, but we are going to do that. Custom iOS wallpapers was a session around that functionality that was just added to 14.10. And that was good. And if you don't know how to do the custom iOS wallpapers, then the YouTube video will help you. We did third-party patching. On Mac OS, that was around Auto Packager. On Windows, it was about WinGet. But it also just in generally talked about third-party patching. Andreas here at FileWave, he just had his first monthly session for German speakers. And he did that in Discord. And I haven't checked in with him about how it went, but it's going to be a monthly thing. So if you want to be part of that, just go into the Discord and you'll see that session is there to sign up for. This Friday, I'm going to do a thing on AI. I did the sessions a few months back, Discord didn't have as many people in it, but you may have missed it. I didn't record it back then. It was before I figured out that I wanted to record things and post them on YouTube. So this one I should record and post, and it'll just be in general about using AI, not really directly in FileWave, because like we said earlier, there's no direct hooks into FileWave, but more as a FileWave admin, the ways that you could use AI. And if you're curious, some of the images in this presentation, actually pretty much all the images in this presentation were done with AI. So you can make some fun stuff.
I'm gonna, I think create my own AI interface just to attend this session of yours on AI interfaces. I might as well let it learn from you. So that's what it's for, right?
Yeah, there was I think a CNET or a Wall Street Journal person who used a voice and video AI to attend meetings instead of her. It was a cute video, trying to see if she could automate her work and not even have to show up to work meetings. So
evidently she didn't see the double-edged sword part of that problem.
yes, that is a little bit of a problem. So check it out. If you don't know much about AI, or if you haven't used anything at all, and if you're just kind of curious, join us and see. So then, the Foundry, right? So the Foundry is our self-paced video learning. If you've never gone to the Foundry, the QR code's here. It's just foundry.filewave.com. Last time we talked about the FileWave Certified Administrator course, so we're continuing to work on developing that and materials in general in the Foundry. But one goal that we had for ourselves that we set in December to complete by the end of the first quarter, we did. If you go to Foundry, you'll see that there's sort of an onboarding section. And that onboarding section is high-level videos to introduce you to how FileWave works. It's great if you're a new administrator and you really just are not quite sure how anything works. You can watch through those videos. We're incorporating them into a new onboarding for new customers where they would also look at those videos in addition to the one-on-one time to add some kind of prepackaged self-paced, do it at your own pace kind of stuff. So you'll see that in the Foundry if you look there today. The knowledge base, which is another component that I take care of. Okay, so we moved from Confluence on-premise to Confluence Cloud last summer. We did that move because Atlassian, for anyone that uses Atlassian, that they are really pushing everyone to SaaS and off of on-prem. It's incredibly difficult to stay on-prem with Atlassian products. So we had to move. And at the time we were debating, trying to find like a good alternative to Atlassian. Is it the best thing to go to? Timing wise, we really didn't have there wasn't so much of a choice. It was really easy to do the migration. I'm sure you guys have seen everything really migrated over simply. So, there was that, but Atlassian has some things that we don't like that much. There's some issues that will arise that they're slow to solve. And so we've been just in general, since that migration, we've been looking for, is that the best? Maybe we stay there. I found another solution that potentially, actually we found two solutions that were potentially good. I think that I know what I want to do, but just know we're gonna keep cleaning up the knowledge base and organizing it. 2 years ago, we started with identifying old articles and archiving them and cleaning up. And when we did the cloud migration last year, we did a lot more cleanup. Everything's in a structure where it's categorized. So it should be quite a bit easier to find. And on the topic of AI, there is this link that you'll see in this image, this chatbot interface. This is kind of an MVP, minimum viable product for this, where you click there and you can ask it things. I think it is a good future way to interact with a knowledge base where you're not trying to specifically search for an article. The search in Atlassian in particular is not so smart. So it's looking for specific words you're looking for. But in the chatbot interface, you could just say, how do I customize iOS wallpapers? You just give it your goal, and it will give you the article and a link to the article. So check it out if you haven't. The other benefit is we are global, and a lot of people, for instance, we have customers in Japan where they might be more comfortable asking their question in Japanese, because in your day-to-day, when you live in a country that's not, English first, you might wonder, exactly how to phrase something. Perhaps it could be. So being able to do something in a native language, I think, is a plus, because it makes less friction. Because no matter what, like I've spent time in Israel where I had to try to speak, even though I spoke Hebrew my whole life growing up. Converting is difficult with language. So I think, give it a try. And if whatever language you speak, try it out in there and see if it gives you the right answer. Now, the answer will still be English. I've also been looking at solutions that will convert language of articles. Yeah, but that doesn't work out great with technical articles. There's a lot of words that a lot of AI is not good at converting. So that'll be sort of an ongoing thing, because in a perfect world, I would want every FileWave customer to be comfortable with the KBE, be able to ask something in whatever language and get the answer back in, that same language, ideally. So this is sort of our long-term thing. It'll take some time, but we'll get there. Okay. So then there's another thing that we've been talking about the past few Alliance meetings, which was FileWave Assist, and just showing it again in case anyone's forgotten about it. But it's a program that will, every month, will be connecting with you. In some cases, it's larger and it's more than just once a month. But this is meant to keep things on the rails. It's not support. Sometimes people think about that this is some form of support. Support is still support, and Derek's team is great at break fix. This is more, I'm going to be re-imaging all my machines this summer for the new school year. What would be the best plan to do that? What would be some new restrictions I could apply, and kind of the best practices and why. So this type of project is good for keeping things on the rails. It's also good for smaller organizations. If you don't know someone who uses FileWave, we group you with 2 other organizations. So you'll be together with peers that are ideally geographically local to you. They're at least in the same time zone. We try and shoot for a school being with a school, a business being with a business, to try and make it so that you might have some common ground about needs. So this can be good. And primarily we're doing this in North America. There's about, I think at this point, 90 customers that are involved in this program. Over in Europe, we have one customer that is essentially in this program. We don't call it this, but they're essentially in this because we started with them before this existed. So what I'd say is, if you're in Europe or Asia and you have interest in this, we have the staff globally to do this. And if you're curious about it, reach out to sales or reach out to customer experience, or even me. And you can reach out to me on Discord too, and ask about it, because it is available. It's been working really well, primarily in North America. So it is a good offering.
Well, it's been working well everywhere. It's just mostly been in America.
It only exists in North America, and one customer in Europe where it's fairly large, where it's actually about 5 hours a week of work with them. So that's why I say it is really FileWave Assist, but it's sort of like a very, very large version of FileWave Assist with this one customer. But it is a good program everywhere.